I want to talk a little bit about the UFC fighter Ronda Rousey, who has without doubt become one of the world's best known athletes. Um, and I've just come across an article about controversial comments a male former UFC star came out with, Tank Abbott. I don't really follow UFC, but I had been familiar with his name and seen one or two clips of his fights. But like I said, I don't follow UFC, so I really don't know much about him. I don't know that much about her, and I don't know much about. I don't follow UFC. That's the point. But what what was brought up in this article, I think, applies to martial arts in general, and that's why I want to discuss it. So basically, he came out with some pretty controversial statements that he could easily beat Ronda Rousey because she's a girl, and after he beats her, he would ask her to make him a sandwich. He said if she beat him, he would give her $100,000. It's my understanding this guy's retired, so he's not an active fighter, but he was roundly condemned for that. First things first, this is one of those cases where I don't really have much respect for either party. I'll come to Ronda Rousey in a minute, but first of all, I don't think that Tank Abbott is really some sort of martyr for men's rights or something. I think it's a moronic statement to make, and it's just stupid. It's just utterly stupid. It is crass, and whatever his views on women fighting, to articulate it in that way is pathetic. Um, so that's that. Um, as for Ronda Rousey, well, the more I learn about her the less I respect her. I'm not talking about her fighting ability in terms of fighting other women. From what I can see, she's pretty formidable fighter. She's pretty dominant in the sport, and she seems to be like basically the Mayweather of UFC insofar as her fame, the attention that's put on her, the hype around her, this sort of thing. So she's sort of the Mayweather of UFC. Not talking about fighting styles or anything like that. She's also kind of broken the mold in. I can't remember a time when a woman in any martial arts has sort of become as well known as she has. Possibly Layla Ali, but that's really the only other example I can think of in a big way. Ronda Rousey may well be on course to become the best known female martial artist ever. I mean, she's being featured in Time magazine. She's going to be featured in Ring, the cover of Ring magazine, which is a boxing magazine. I already said I don't agree with that decision. I think I made the points in the previous video, but there's a few things I'd like to point out about Ronda Rousey. Um, there are a lot of people, and it isn't just feminists. There are a lot of men who follow UFC who are sort of holding her up as like a heroine. And the problem I find is that any man who criticizes a female martial artist is immediately slammed as sexist or as being insecure. Well, let me make one thing very clear. I am utterly secure in who I am and my thoughts on the subject. Um, I think that Ronda Rousey is a hypocrite, and this is why. She called out Floyd Mayweather. It wasn't the other way around. She called him out. And to be clear here, I'm not a fan of Mayweather. I don't particularly like his personality, but she called him out. And he said she can come back to me when she's making $170 million. So of course for Mayweather it's all about money. But the point is, she then retracted and said she wouldn't fight a man because it would give the wrong message on TV about men hitting women. Now, to me, this is just hypocritical. If she's putting herself in a position where she says, "Oh, but I can call out men, I can offer to fight men," but then it would send out a wrong message. Now, personally, I think it would be perverse to have mixed fighting, and that's something I hope never happens. I think it would be utterly perverse. I think it would be wrong, and I think it would be a very depressing situation if it ever became a thing. Um, so, why can't she just be content being dominant as a female fighter? The fact is this: um, take uh, exceptional male martial artists, take an exceptional female martial artist. Simple biology dictates the man will win. That's not sexist. It's simple science. Because now, can Ronda Rousey beat an average guy? Of course she can, because she's a trained professional athlete. She does this for a living. She spends every day training. She is a fighter. That's what she does. So she beat the average Joe on the street? She probably could. But could she beat a well-trained male athlete? No, I don't think she could. And stating that as a fact should not be seen as a sexist statement. It's not. It's just dumb. It's like asking, I don't know, Data Ali to fight Manny Pacquiao. Or, it's just, it's a, just it's so unlikely that a woman fighter, no matter how good she is, can beat the best male fighters. She might be able to beat an average male fighter, but no, I refuse to believe that a woman could beat the best male fighter. That is not a sexist statement. It is simple science. It's nothing to do with a sense of male superiority. I happen to believe that women are stronger in other areas, actually. But again, this comes down to it's partly a sort of feminist approach, but I mean, a feminist influence, but it's also political correctness. That is to say, just because she's doing well, people have to kind of go into this ideology and accept this ideology that women can beat men in a fight. Because the fact of the matter is, a professional male athlete could beat a woman, but most professional male athletes would not do that. Why? Because they wouldn't get any credit for it, number one. Number two, you know, um, most guys who enter the ring are decent human beings. Okay, you get the occasional thug, but the majority of professional athletes are, I would say most of them wouldn't do it for also down to values. You would never in a million years getting a guy like Vladimir Klitschko or Manny Pacquiao or Sergio Martinez, um, beating a woman because it would go against their values. And I'm giving those examples because they have specifically said things to that effect. Um, so I mean, Mayweather shouldn't get into a war of words. He should, if I were Mayweather, I would just ignore her. And that's in my opinion, every male athlete should do if they find themselves in this situation, if they're called out by a woman. Don't just ignore them or say that, forget it, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Um, so I do think her position is hypocritical to call a male fighter out and then say, oh, but I wouldn't do it because it sends out the wrong message. Well, if she's concerned about sending out the wrong message, um, then that's her own background. Ronda Rousey is no saint. She actually has a history of domestic violence herself. She admits in her autobiography that she violently attacked her boyfriend. That shouldn't be acceptable. According to apparently the circumstances, the guy had nude pictures of her or something. So, I'm not talking about who is right and wrong in the situation, and it's a private matter, but it is of public interest when she makes this an issue, and then her position is hypocritical because she's essentially saying it's wrong for men to hit women, but it's okay for women to hit men. But that's a position that I've always taken issue with. I personally have contempt for men who beat women. I think it's, you know, because of what I was talking about, because the average man is stronger, it's wrong and it's not a manly thing to do. I think it's utterly abhorrent. But, you know, when someone like Ronda Rousey, who's a trained athlete, who is in a violent sport, thinks it's perfectly okay to attack her boyfriend, and from what I understand, he's not a fighter, he's a Joe Average, then I mean, I'd like to know why she wasn't arrested for that incident the same way Mayweather was. it should, it should work both ways. Um, and when I said earlier that, a woman athlete couldn't really hurt a male athlete, the caveat to that is that she could hurt an average guy. If you have someone like Ronda Rousey hitting a man who doesn't fight for a living, she could do serious damage. And that should be seen as assault and domestic violence. And she, in my opinion, should have been arrested for that. Okay, the guy should be charged as well for whatever it was he was going to do with the nude pictures. But the point is, there shouldn't be double standards in this. And for all those reasons, I don't have much respect for Ronda Rousey. And I'm not going to sort of jump on the bandwagon and respect her just because she's doing well and because, she's become this sort of feminist icon. No, why should I? I don't respect any fighters who, if she had a decent personality, if she respected her opponents, this is the thing, she doesn't even respect her female opponents. She gloats over them. Um, and she's a trash talker. So for all those reasons, I see no reason to respect her. I have a lot more respect for Nicola Adams, the British boxer. I think she carries herself well. I think she's a good role model. Someone like that deserves a lot more respect as a person than Ronda Rousey. I don't see much to like about Ronda Rousey at all. Um, that's just a few of my thoughts. I think that, and what pisses me off about this is every time a guy mentions these views, people are like, "Oh, she can kick your ass," as if that is the point. It's not the point. The whole nature of this debate isn't just about who can beat who, it's also about values. And the fact of the matter is, if any man did defend himself from the likes of Ronda Rousey, he would immediately be condemned as a woman beater, even though she is hardly an average woman. Um, the bottom line is that she is taking cheap shots. It's one thing calling out Mayweather, knowing full well it will never happen. And then, she attacks her boyfriend who can't defend himself. So I've not much respect for her. And I just hope this circus around Ronda Rousey ends quite soon because she's not someone to be admired. She's skilled at what she does. I'm not taking that away from her, but her personality, I've not much time for at all. And I think she's sending out the wrong message by issuing these threats to male boxers, incidentally, not UFC fighters, but boxers. And Tank Abbott, fuck him too. He's he's an idiot for comments that he came out with. What he's saying is true. I believe that he could beat her, but you know, to articulate it in the way that he did, and it was sexist. There's no question about that. Just makes him look like a dumb moron. So I'll leave it there. In case anyone is thinking that I'm opposed to women fighting, I'm not. I completely support equal opportunity, and for that reason, I have no problem with women putting on gloves, getting into a boxing ring or a UFC ring, and fighting other women. But if there is ever a situation of mixed fights, it's I think that would just be plain wrong. When I trained for my white collar event, there was sparring with um, women, but that was it. Um, And if they turned around and said that your opponent would be a girl or a woman, I would have said, no, I'm quitting this. Sorry. I'm not going to hit a woman. I'm not going to risk my values for that. Because, I know for a fact if I was fighting a woman, um, I would be concerned about using my full force. A, because I could kill her, and B, because I'll be condemned for it. So I believe that a decent man, I'm not talking about thugs who think that they can, that do it without thinking, but I'm talking about men with a conscience. They're in a no-win position because if they're beaten by a woman, then they're weak because they're beaten by a woman. And if they defend themselves and fight back, then they're thugs who are beating women. So basically, as far as I'm concerned, male athletes shouldn't get themselves into a war of words. Um, uh, and the likes of Ronda Rousey should stick to what she does, fighting other women. So I've pretty strong views on this. I'm not opposed to women fighting, um, but I absolutely believe it should be against other women. I'll never, and admittedly, I'm not a fan. I was going to say I'm never going to be a fan of it, but never say never. But at the moment, I honestly, I just don't get the same appeal from watching women beat each other up in the way I watch men fighting. Call me old-fashioned, call me conservative, whatever. I don't care. Um, I just believe that men should be men and women should be women. That isn't the same as saying that I'm opposed to someone's right to do something. I believe that you can support equal opportunity without having to like it. And it's very important to differentiate, i.e., I support their right to do it, but I'm not a fan. And I don't think I ever will be.